I've read a lot of reports in my life, but I've never seen one audition for a Netflix thriller by page 7. Let me tell you how danger works in certain narratives. Because apparently danger doesn't require evidence anymore. It just needs paperwork. Page 1, concerning behavior. Page 2, unusual comments. Page 3, possible concern. Okay, adults documenting concerns, reasonable, measured, fine. But somewhere around page 5, the story starts bulking up. Like it's training for something. And by page 7, we have officially left the building and entered a cartoon mystery episode. Suddenly the narrative has danger. Threats, chaos, characters with dramatic backstories. A wandering figure, tragic and wailing, equal parts ghost story and courtroom telenovela. The emotional range of a daytime soap opera. The evidentiary weight of a lukewarm toaster. No harm, no violence, no incident. Just paragraphs getting taller. At this point, the document stops being a report. It becomes Pinocchio, administrative edition. Every new paragraph, the nose grows. Page 8 grows. Page 9 grows again. By page 12, the document needs its own zip code, a city council, and a municipal mascot. Meanwhile, the findings section is sitting quietly in the corner, minding its business. No harm, no threat, no emergency, just facts. While the narrative runs laps around the room in a ghost costume going, ooh, danger, and then the story assigns roles. Suddenly, I'm the villain, the architect of chaos, the source of all instability, and I want to be clear. I take that casting very seriously. If I'm the villain, I will commit to the role. I will monologue. I will have a dramatic wardrobe. I will brood near windows. But the script also insists, earnestly, formally, in official font, that someone needs a psychological evaluation, which is genuinely fascinating, because the same document treats ghost stories, paranormal plot lines, and time-traveling prophecies as credible supporting evidence. So let me understand the internal logic here. The characters who believe in curses, supernatural forces, and events that haven't happened yet are the ones certifying that someone else is unstable. That's not a danger assessment. That's a writer's room that has lost control of its own script. Here's what I want you to actually hear, because this stops being funny and starts being something else entirely. When narratives grow louder than facts, when imagination gets certified as evidence, when systems amplify the story instead of examining it, the harm doesn't land on the system. It lands on the person trapped inside the story. It lands on their reputation, their freedom, their ability to be believed. Real danger announces itself. It doesn't need 47 pages of buildup. But fiction? Fiction needs paragraphs. Fiction needs drama. Fiction needs a ghost and a villain and a third-act twist. The real mystery was never the danger in the document. The real mystery is how the story got that far in the first place. And who was accountable for the damage when it did? Signal received.
If you've ever been told you need therapy, you might want to hear this. Today's therapy session involved Bob. Yes, Bob the Simp. Bob arrived 10 minutes early to therapy carrying what can only be described as a buffet. Not a snack, not a lunch, a buffet. There were mozzarella sticks, chicken wings, nachos, cookies, and what appeared to be a very optimistic portion of potato skins. Bob explained that emotional processing becomes significantly easier when supported by appetizers. I made a note to myself that buffet-assisted therapy is not currently part of my professional training, but I am always open to new coping mechanisms. Once Bob had arranged the buffet beside the couch, he began explaining why he scheduled the appointment. According to Bob, several people in his life have recently developed extremely dramatic theories about him. These theories, he explained, have grown more elaborate over time and have now reached the stage where someone has decided the best way to present them is in official-looking documents. This is something I find fascinating because there is a strange phenomenon that happens when imagination meets formatting. If you take a wild story and place it neatly into paragraphs, suddenly people assume the laws of reality must also be included. Bob described the situation as a collision between storytelling and paperwork. He said the story about him has been repeated so many times that it now sounds extremely confident. And confidence, unfortunately, is often mistaken for evidence. During this part of the conversation, Bob consumed 3 mozzarella sticks and half a plate of nachos. I am not saying the food solved the situation, but Bob did appear noticeably calmer afterward. The interesting part of Bob's story is not the details. The interesting part is the pattern. Sometimes when people are angry, or afraid, or simply very determined to win an argument, they stop describing events, and they start writing narratives. The first version of the story is usually small. But stories grow. They grow the same way fishing stories grow. By the third retelling, the fish has doubled in size and is now capable of supernatural behavior. Bob is currently living inside one of those stories. And when that happens, something very predictable occurs. People begin diagnosing each other. Suddenly, everyone involved becomes an amateur psychologist, detective, historian, and mythologist all at once. All without the inconvenience of medical school. Bob's personal strategy for navigating this situation is food. Every time the story becomes more complicated, Bob reaches calmly for another appetizer, which I will admit is one of the more consistent coping strategies I have seen this week. By the end of the session, Bob had finished most of the buffet. He appeared relaxed, which suggests one of two possibilities. Either the therapy helped, or the nachos did. At this time, the evidence remains inconclusive, but I will continue documenting Bob's progress, and possibly the mozzarella sticks. My next appointment today was with a woman named Mara. Mara is currently in a relationship with Bob, who I met earlier this week. Bob and Mara decided to attend therapy separately. After today's conversation, I understand why. Mara introduced herself by explaining that Bob tends to misunderstand her lifestyle. That word, lifestyle, ended up covering quite a lot of ground. During the session, Mara spoke openly about the fact that she values independence in relationships. According to her, independence sometimes includes traveling to other states without Bob, spending time with other men she talks to online, and maintaining what she described as private friendships. She explained that Bob tends to see these situations differently. Mara believes he simply lacks perspective. She also mentioned that she and Bob live very different social lives. Bob enjoys stability, Mara enjoys access. Specifically, Mara enjoys attending Hyena sporting events. Bob works for the Hyenas organization, which apparently comes with access to very good seats. Mara explained that she and one of her friends like to attend the games together so they can take photos and post them online. She described the experience as networking. I suspect Bob might describe it slightly differently. At one point in the session, I asked Mara what she believes Bob provides in the relationship. She thought about that question carefully. Then she said, Bob provides stability. She also mentioned that stability is important when you are balancing multiple social circles. Mara also shared that she believes people tend to overreact to the choices she makes. According to her, people misunderstand confidence. She believes she simply knows what she wants, and she is very good at finding ways to get it. At this point, I made a note reminding myself that Bob's version of events included a buffet brought into therapy to cope with emotional stress. After speaking with Mara, that coping strategy makes considerably more sense. I ended the session by explaining that therapy is a place to examine how our choices affect the people around us. Mara agreed with that statement, although she seemed far more interested in discussing her next trip out of state. For now, I've documented the session, and I suspect Bob's next appointment will be informative. Bob returned for his follow-up appointment today. After my previous session with Mara, I felt reasonably prepared for what Bob might say. I was incorrect. Bob began the session by explaining that Mara believes she is a mythical ghost connected to the legend of La Llorona. According to Bob, Mara believes she drowned her children centuries ago and now haunts people somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Bob delivered this information calmly. He said it the same way someone might describe a spouse taking up yoga. Bob then clarified that this belief does not affect their daily life. In his words, they live a completely normal life. They go to church regularly, they maintain a routine, and he cannot understand why anyone would want to harm them. At this point in the conversation, I asked Bob what made him think someone was trying to harm them. Bob paused thoughtfully before explaining that he believes a secret group of ninjas may be watching them. Specifically ninjas. Bob did not appear distressed by this possibility. He described the ninjas in the same tone someone might use to describe neighborhood watch volunteers. I asked Bob why ninjas would be interested in him or Mara. Bob explained that Mara's former husband may actually be a time traveler from the 1950s. According to Bob, this theory explains several unusual events. For example, Bob believes the time traveler may have altered history in ways that attracted the attention of the ninjas. At this point, I wrote the phrase, possible timeline complications in my notes. Bob reassured me that despite these concerns, he still considers their household to be stable. He emphasized again that they are church-going people who try to live a peaceful life. He simply wishes the ninjas would leave them alone. I thanked Bob for explaining his concerns. I then asked several follow-up questions regarding stress levels, sleep patterns, and whether the ninjas had attempted any direct communication. Bob informed me that the ninjas have remained extremely discreet, which he pointed out is consistent with ninja behavior. I agreed that discretion is generally considered part of the ninja brand. At the end of the session, Bob asked if I believed his concerns were unreasonable. I told him my job is to assess how beliefs affect a person's well-being and safety. Privately, I made a note reminding myself that Bob copes with stress by bringing a buffet to therapy. After today's conversation, that coping strategy makes considerably more sense. For now, I have documented the session, and I will continue assessing the situation, preferably before the ninjas escalate their operations.
A ninja can kill you in 1,000 ways. But tonight we must be careful about how we tell this story, because technically, a crime is in progress. The target is a woman named Laura. Laura lives high in the Rockies. Quiet air, long nights, houses spaced far apart. Bedtime has arrived. The house is silent, lights out. But the ninja has already studied the environment. Entry points, window locks, angles of approach, everything calculated, everything precise. The ninja slides inside without a sound. The mission tonight is unusual. There is no strike planned, no confrontation, only recovery. The ninja moves slowly through the house. Observation first, foot placement careful, breathing controlled. Then, he finds them. A stack of papers on the desk. Therapy notes. Private. Detailed. Surprisingly dramatic. The ninja studies the first page. Eyebrows rise. The ninja reads another page. Head tilts. The ninja reads a third page, then a fourth. Then suddenly, the ninja begins to laugh. Quietly at first, then uncontrollably. The stories are unbelievable. The details are absurd. The conclusions, extremely creative. The ninja wipes a tear from his eye. This was supposed to be a stealth operation. Instead, it has become entertainment. Still, the notes are collected, stacked neatly, filed with ninja precision. Mission accomplished. The ninja exits the house the same way he entered. Silent, disciplined, still laughing. Remember, a ninja can kill you in 1,000 ways. But sometimes, the real danger is what people write down.
Breaking news tonight. Authorities are investigating a highly unusual incident after what witnesses are describing as ninjas reportedly broke into Laura's office late last night. According to early reports, several therapy notes appear to be missing following the incident. Investigators say the individuals moved quietly through the building and left very little behind, leading some witnesses to speculate that the suspects may have been highly trained. Security footage has not yet been released. Officials are still working to determine how the individuals entered the office and what their motive may have been. At this time, authorities confirm that several therapy documents are unaccounted for. No injuries were reported. Police say the investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information regarding the alleged ninja activity is encouraged to contact local authorities. More updates will follow as this story develops.